Hi, this is Wishop, and in a way, this is a remake of a video I tried to make about a week ago. After the Scorpio full moon, I felt like doing a geomancy video, so I did just a simple head, heart, belly, feet reading. When I did it, I found that I came up with a very similar reading after doing the whole video to what I had done in the other card reading. So I felt like, well, why bother to post this? It's exactly the same. But because of the way geomancy works, within every 4 glyph reading is implied a full shield spread. So I decided, well, okay, since there's no point in posting something that's basically the same, which is we've got our mind on material things, we want to take ethical action, we're worried about doing something rash, we're worried about getting into trouble, and in fact we can get into trouble with our actions if we're not careful. Pretty much the same. So I decided to do a shield spread to get more detail about this situation. And then from there, I decided to do a fun exercise of seeing how we could then maybe change our fate if we wanted to, which is something I've played around with in geomancy, but I have not presented here. If you're not familiar with geomancy, I'm not going to be able to have time in this video to really go backwards and cover a lot of what I'm doing. I have assigned playing cards to the glyphs, which give me something to look at, and they are tied to odds and evens and reds and blacks and the elements and the houses and the planets and all that stuff. So you can go into the geomancy playlist, which I will put in the corner in a card, and I'll also put in the description box if you'd like to know more about geomancy in general, or about how I assign the playing cards and how I use it. Some of the ways that I use it are slightly less common. They're not completely out of left field, but they may be less common approaches. I also want to thank people who've gone into that geomancy playlist and had really substantive comments and questions, because I think we've had some great little discussions back and forth for people who are kind of into the system. So there we go. So for those of you who are not into geomancy, some of this stuff isn't going to be as clear in terms of the method I'm using, but hopefully the takeaways will still be valuable and clear. So I did a shield spread. You can think of it as the mother line, the daughter line, the niece or granddaughter line, and then you get 2 witnesses and a judge. The judge is your outcome. So from here, we've got a lot of territory that we cover, and then we get to an outcome. So what happens? Here, I'll just show you quickly is how this one plays out. And you basically end up adding different lines and summing different ones together. And when you do, this is what you get. 2 witnesses, or even the mother and the father of the judge, and the judge. So the outcome is a Missio, which is a card for loss, and it's a card for earthly loss because it's in Taurus. So again, we have this idea that our mind is on concrete matters. How do we make things concretely better, materially better, in our finances, in our property, in our health, in our body, in our possessions, in the running of our time? And here, if things go the way they're going, the outcome doesn't look so good. And one of the things that I notice about this, and I'll try to be quick so I can get to the ways we can change this, is that we have a lot of doubt and fears about losing. And yes, our minds are materially focused right now, but also our fears are materially focused, which can be sort of paralyzing. I really want to make some material step forward, but I'm very afraid of losing. And I'm also afraid of taking rash action. All this energy that's in Earth right now is going to counsel that rash action could be out of your best interests. And, you know, it can be true. But it can also, when you're deciding never to take a risk, you also never get a chance to win either. And so I see there's a real aversion to risk here that, in fact, is making us feel a little bit hopeless. To be honest, there's a sense that unless something shows up, or unless things get so bad we can't stand it anymore, or something shows up out of the blue that we feel we can take, we're just kind of stuck. And the problem is, while we're not gaining, we may actually be losing some ground that we care about. So what do we do in this situation? Because I found that having the Geomancy reading be the same a few days later as the actual full moon reading, I thought, well, we are kind of stuck, or at least the energy feels sort of stuck. So what can we do? Well, if this is the mother line where it starts, and this is the daughter line kind of where we are now, and this is leading toward the future, the nieces line, again, head, heart, belly, feet, but also different houses. These would be the mutable signs. And then we get to two witnesses, or you might think of the internal circumstances, the external circumstances, the yin, the yang, and then the outcome, the judge. If we look at this, I say, well, what would happen if I could change my thoughts or my feelings, or deal with my fears or my subconscious or my past? Or what would happen if I changed some action that I was planning on taking? If I change one of these things in this near future, how will it affect this outcome card? So that's what I was working on. So what I'm going to do is actually clear all this away to make it a little, hopefully, easier to see. But I want to keep in mind, this all starts because we had our mind on improving our luck and improving our material circumstances in some way. That's where it all begins. This is in the first house of Aries, of the self-concept. The first mother is, how do we make things better in a tangible way? So now I'm going to kind of scoop all this up, or at least I'm going to scoop up this stuff, the way these began. So I'm really focused here. Now all I've got left in front of me are the nieces. So all I've got left in front of me are the near future cards, the way this is playing out if nothing changes. Okay, look at this. Woo. Okay, sorry, I've got a wrinkle in the fabric and it's just, and I'm being fussy. Oh well. So the first thing we could think is, well, what if I change my thoughts? In this point, the future is a wild card. We are beset by uncertainty. We don't know what the future is going to hold, and we're a little bit stressed because we're like, well, it could be good, it could be really bad, so we don't want to take action. So I find it easier to change a glyph on its own axis. If you're familiar with the glyphs, you know they occur in pairs. So what happens is I exchange this card for its opposite. Again, this will be clear if you look in the playlist or if you're already familiar with the system. So instead of changing this to a wild card, new start, a new start's going to be a wild card. What if I change my thoughts on the subject to its opposite and say, this situation has to end. Whatever situation I'm in, I'm so stuck and so mad about it that it simply has to end no matter what. Now, this can be a sign of an ugly finish, and this is a dramatic decision, right? This is the executioner. It's like, that's it. I don't care. I can't take it anymore. I'm not going to work by half measures. I'm just getting the heck out. And I don't care if I have to take rash action to do it. I'm doing it. Where will that lead? Well, where it's going to lead, first of all, in the witness position, is rubeus, the red, which means people are likely going to think you've gone overboard. You are being rash, which is something we're a little bit worried about. And people might think that this is a bad decision, or it's like vice, you know, like sin, like you've gone to excess. It's rash. It's just too much. It's wrathful. However, where does it lead? When we add these two witnesses together, it leads to Fortuna Major. This is the best material card in the deck, but I want to be clear on this. This is like a kingship. It is the result of long action, and it's the result of other people's involvement. Things you have to work hard, and then things have to go your way. So there's a luck element, but there's also a lot of work. So this is a complete change of life. If you're at the point where you decide you need to just make a change no matter what, it could be the making of a whole new life for you and a whole new success for you. But that kind of dramatic action means you're going to have to cast aside what other people think of you. And you're going to have to cast aside your own fears. And that can be, I mean, that's pretty dang bold. And not everybody is in a position to be able to just cut something off at the knees like that. And just make that decision. You may be there and the auspices are good, but it's kind of like if you want to win a Grammy, you have to have, learned to sing or produce or play an instrument. You have to have recorded, you have to have, gotten signed somewhere and been on the radio. Like, there's a long path to this. It's a great path, but it's a long one. So let's look at what else we can do. All right. Amicio, this is in the heart area, fear of loss. What if I could just, maybe fear might be more here, but what if I could just think about the things I wanted, fall in love with the things I want? If I could cultivate some optimism from a really heartfelt place, or talk to people, relations of mine, who are very supportive of my goals. What would just a change in my heart, in my feelings, if I spent a little while every day contemplating what I want, what would that do for me? Well, it would put my internal situation into a better ethical place. I would feel calmer and more optimistic, and I would be able maybe to think of taking ethical action. And where would that lead? That would lead where I've wanted in the first place, toward gain. So I'm going to show you here. This is interesting. If you change this one in your guts, your past, your subconscious. So maybe you want to think about how you have approached material substance or wealth or surplus in the first place, or in your past. If you were to change the way you felt on a deep instinctive level, maybe do some journaling about how your relationship with this works, and really sort of remedy some of the stuff in your past or deal with your deep fears, what do you get out of that? Well, the immediate kind of result is you're going to feel more joyful. You're going to feel a better sense of flow and a better sense of creative possibility. And where's that going to lead? That's also going to lead to gain. So let's look at the last one. You're not sure you can change your heart about it. Maybe you're not sure what you want, so you don't have a desire to fall in love with. And maybe you're not sure how to go about untangling your past, your feelings about wealth. Maybe this is all kind of intimidating. It's an intimidating block to deal with. And it leads you with a sense of uncertainty about your future and a fear of taking action. So what do you try to do? Well, you try to take the next rational action that you can. Puella, the girl. You try to take something calm and rational. It doesn't have to be huge, but it's going to be cool-headed. The next rational thing you can do to improve your circumstances. And what do you get out of that? Well, you don't get as dramatic a result, but you do get, even though this means sadness, this is sort of a temporary thing, what you get is a little bit of differentiation between where you were and where you're going. And that allows you to make some decisions. And what does that lead to? A stroke of luck. So I think even if you can just take one calm, rational act, you might be able to generate a little luck for yourself that way. Even though it's not going to really reshape the situation, it could generate a stroke of luck. And the best thing you can do is just try to deal on the inner level with having some optimism about the future. So there we go. That's it for now, and rock on with your bad selves.